Hello, hello. Welcome to Inspiring Women with ADHD. I am Renee Allen, the host and creator and person on this podcast, and I'm happy you're here today. Today, I want to talk to you some more about RSD. I took a little pause from that yesterday because I felt like talking about trying to get things done when it's not working the way you want, but I'm back to RSD, and it's just such a fascinating topic. I don't deal with it, but I have people in my life who do. So I've seen it firsthand. I didn't realize until I had ADHD what it was, or that it was a part of ADHD for a lot of people. Most people with RSD have ADHD. But there are people with RSD who don't have ADHD. So just to know that someone who's diagnosed with ADHD is more likely to have RSD than someone else. And part of that is, and I touched on this a little bit in the last episode on this, which was episode 63, I think. Part of that is because when you have ADHD, you have emotional dysregulation. It doesn't mean that you'll have RSD if you have emotional dysregulation, and it shows up differently for different people, but it is a part of ADHD for children and adults. So even if you're not experiencing some of these problems that come and challenges that come with RSD, you might have children who do, and you can recognize that and see, oh, there's a reason these responses are coming out so extreme. There's a reason this doesn't seem like what my other child did. We know our children aren't the same, but when we see something that's much different, we start to wonder, like, wait, I don't get this. I'll give you a few examples. So, two of my daughters played softball together, and the older daughter played softball like I did, had the coach, played the game. The coach told her to do things. She either did it or she didn't. She didn't feel a lot of pressure. And it was so funny because she didn't feel a lot of pressure. She would be in the outfield and the coach would say, catch the ball, like try to get her to wake up and look. And she'd kind of look around like, what? And she does have ADHD, so maybe her mind was on something else. Even when she was up at bat, and I think she was focusing when she was up at bat, but she was younger on the team, and my guess is that she realized maybe she was afraid to swing the bat, but if she didn't swing the bat, because she was smaller, she was younger on the team, most of the time she walked because they didn't pitch the ball to her area, that might not have been what the pitchers were used to. And the coach wanted her to be able to swing the bat. And he had been a professional baseball player. He was a friend of ours. And he would say over and over to her, swing the bat, swing the bat. And she'd do it in practice, but she wouldn't do it in the games. So I finally said to her, oh, I know we're not supposed to bribe our kids with sugar, but I know that now, I guess. But I told her one of the kinds of cookies we both loved is chocolate mint cookies, like the Girl Scout cookies. And then I realized, you can buy those at the grocery store too. So I told her she could have one cookie for every time she swung the bat, and she started doing it. But that was her, and she's a lot like me in so many ways. And so experiencing her as a child, that's different, that maybe she doesn't want to swing the bat, but it didn't seem so different. But then my next child, when she played softball, I remember she came to me one day and said, I don't like it because my coach is always telling me what I'm doing wrong. And I told her, your coach is there to coach you and teach you what to do that's right. So if you aren't catching the ball when you're outfield, he's going to show you how to catch the ball, and he'll work with you on that. And I thought that is so interesting that she felt like the coach was always telling her what she was doing wrong. And he wasn't picking on her in any way. And I have 4 brothers. They played baseball. I played softball. I'd never heard of such a thing. And I don't know that she has RSD, but she's wondering if she might. And she is sensitive to things like that. My younger daughter, 100% has RSD. And I could see that in her as a child. I didn't know what it was then, but I knew she was very, 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 even more than the softball coach. My daughter who said that about her softball coach didn't emotionally react to it. She just felt that criticism. She didn't feel it to the degree that maybe it was RSD, but she was interpreting it. And that's actually part of it, RSD, is taking something that is neutral and thinking it's negative, or even something that's positive and thinking it's negative. So actually that is a part of RSD, but you can have parts of RSD without fully having it. But anyway, she hasn't been diagnosed, so I don't know. But the other daughter, from a very young age, we're reading books together. She's my fifth child, so four other children, and I don't expect them to be the same. I can see that they're different. But the other children, when I'd read the book with them and they're on my lap and they're sounding out words, I would help them. I wasn't telling them what they were doing wrong. It was like the softball coach. I would say, if she would say, at, and the word was and, I'd say, sound it out, say, oh, it's not at, it's and, as she was reading. And she would take the book and kind of throw it in the air and get off my lap and walk away and say, you're always telling me what I'm doing wrong. And I thought, wait, what? And even playing the piano, I don't know, maybe moms don't do this, but I took piano lessons when I was younger. I wasn't my children's piano teacher, but if I would be walking around in the house and could hear them practicing and could hear something that was wrong, I'd walk over and say, oh, the timing is off on that one. There's one more beat, or you hold that note a little longer, or that chord, there was a note that was wrong. Let's play it again, and help them with that. This daughter didn't like that either. Like, you're always telling me what's wrong, which is probably true in with the piano. I wasn't walking around saying, oh, you did that note right. You did that right. I wasn't telling her anything that was right with it, but I wasn't overly criticizing either. So it's maybe something that you can see in someone in your family or a friend. And if you understand it, it might help you see that it's not you, it's how they're experiencing things. And just as a little review of what RSD is a condition linked to ADHD. It's not an official diagnosis, and it's not even officially a symptom of anything. It's a condition that is linked to ADHD, and it's commonly called RSD. And what it means is that your brain, because of the emotional dysregulation, the brain can't regulate rejection-related emotions and behavior, and makes them much, 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 doesn't say that when I look it up, but much, much, much more intense. And often the person feels intense pain related to rejection. Sometimes they perceive rejection when there isn't actually rejection happening. I want to share with you the way some women have described what it feels like to have RSD. One woman said she would rather break her leg than feel the devastating feeling of receiving criticism. One person said it's especially bad when it's work-related. If she's laid off, it's the worst feeling she's ever experienced. One woman said she had physical reactions like shaking, heart rate spikes before meetings where she would get feedback when she perceived, I must have done something wrong. I must have done something wrong. I can relate to that in some way, which is kind of weird. It's not even work-related or, something that I'm really being evaluated, but I've had people who are over me before with what I do at church that say, hey, I want to talk to you and just see how it's going for you. And I immediately think, oh, they have a problem with how I'm doing it and they want to talk to me about it. And then I talk to them about it and it's not that way at all. Or I just want to see if you feel like you're getting enough support. And then I'm thinking, do you think I need more support? And that wasn't what she meant at all. She was offering support because she felt like she wasn't doing enough. but it's perceiving that you did something wrong when maybe you haven't. And maybe you have, but I can relate to that part for sure. And there may be things that you relate to, not to the degree of feeling the strong, strong pain that comes with it. But when we're sensitive beings or we have ADHD, sometimes if you're more empathetic, I think you tend to take in that sensitivity yourself too. Someone else said, "Oh my goodness, it's so bad. I'm in a constant state of crippling anxiety from it." One woman said, "I get my feelings hurt really easily, and my kids sometimes call me overdramatic." Another woman said she's been labeled an overthinker. You're overthinking this. You're oversensitive. You're blowing things out of proportion. You're so dramatic. Another woman said that RSD made her feel like someone was mad at her or like she was in trouble. Another woman said she can't stand any confrontation or aggression, even by email or text. I am the same way. Are you the same way with that? I shared my experience just going to pick up glasses and having to let the woman know that I wasn't lying and let her know what really happened. Because I feel like sometimes in stores, it's important to let people know not to be a complainer, but just so that they can function well for the future for other customers. And see, even the fact that I had to justify that shows that I don't feel comfortable. And maybe that's me being sensitive to that too. I'm worried they're going to think something bad about me. Do you ever do that? I used to do that when my kids were in school. Like, I don't want to be that mom that I hear the ladies in the office talk about of, oh, she comes in and complains about everything. But then sometimes you do need to bring something to someone's attention. And so I was worried about them having a negative impression of me, which I eventually learned to let go of with school things because I found my children to be more important. But I mean, it's funny. I found my children to be more important. Of course, my children are the most important, but it took me a while to get to that point. I hate to be sitting here laughing while I'm reading these things because they're really difficult. So this other person said, I barely leave the house because of it. So my youngest daughter deals with this, and I asked her after that last episode last week, I read extreme emotional pain. What does that feel like for you? And she said that one, taking medication for her anxiety, because she hasn't been diagnosed with ADHD, but seeing the degree that she has RSD and a few ADHD symptoms, I think she could go in and easily get a diagnosis. The more I think about it, she doesn't have a lot of the traits that my oldest daughter and I have, who are like obvious ADHD people. But her RSD portion is very, very big. And so she said that anxiety medication has helped her RSD tremendously because she doesn't react as strongly. But she said when it was really bad, because I could see, like I said, reading the book, playing the piano, and other things too that were hard for her. And I think she did fine in elementary school, but when she got to the age of middle school or high school, when kids are critical of other kids, especially girls, and she was new in the middle school, new to the area, didn't go to kindergarten and everything with all those kids. And people could have been saying things that were negative, or they could have been neutral. But there is a twinge of cattiness, or maybe a lot of cattiness, in girls as they get a little bit older, depending on the girl. And that was really hard for her. That's when it showed up a lot more. And it was harder in school. But it wasn't until college, when she had some difficulties there, that it became really extreme. And she described it to me as not as much pain, but as tremendous stress, like heartbeat, anxiety, so much stress. She didn't want to eat. She didn't want to go to class. She didn't want to be around any of the friends, or she was afraid of seeing any of the people who had rejected her. And it wasn't a perceived rejection. But what happens is when you are, at least when I saw with this situation, when you are rejected, and this even happened in middle school or high school, where someone would say her name And she'd look, and then they'd say, I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to the other person of that name. It's like, oh, well, that is rejection. That is a girl being mean. And then when you experience that, that might confirm what you thought. I thought this person didn't like me, and she just showed it. And so now all these other people that I guessed didn't like me, and she really was convinced that so many people, fit in that category, that it becomes very, very stressful just to be in an environment when you're around people like that. Yeah. So when someone has RSD, even just an innocent comment can be perceived as a huge rejection, or a mild disagreement, or just a discussion. That's me, where I think the discussion of something where I'm having to stand up for myself feels like a confrontation. I don't want it to be that way. I want it to be all happy. And so if you see that as more severe, it can be hard. It can be hard. And there were people who talked about positive aspects of RSD. And I thought this was super interesting, because I've said things like this to my daughter when she would come home and say, people would say to her, "You're too sensitive. Why are you so sensitive?" And I don't think, she's a very quiet person. I don't think she was drawing attention to herself, but maybe, people could sense that she wasn't feeling good about herself. And one person said, when you have RSD, you are simply a highly sensitive person, which also means you're empathetic and have the capability of understanding how others might take criticism from you. And that might cause you to be a kinder person, a more delicate person around others, to help them not feel that way, to help them not feel awful. Another person said she loves having it because it's like an alarm going off, telling her what she needs to heal within herself and how she could improve. And I would say that if you have ADHD and you're learning more about yourself right now and what makes this happen and what makes that happen, you may feel the same way, that you start to see things happening. It's like a little alarm going off, although RSD, it's a much louder alarm because the emotions get really extreme. But when you're walking away from confrontation and you are just bursting into tears and thinking, this is so awful, this is so awful, this is so hard, you can't regulate those emotions because it was hard for you to be in that situation. I've done that before where I've cried because I stood up to a man. I don't know if I've shared. I'm sorry if I repeat stories, but when I was pregnant with my second daughter, my older daughter, the one that was on the baseball field and didn't want to swing the bat, was almost 2. And she was in the cart at Trader Joe's, and she stood up a few times, and I had her sit down. She's, has the hyperactivity like I do. And, sit down, sit down. She's stand up, sit down, sit down. You got to be safe. Anyway, they must not have had the little lap belts or whatever in there. But anyway, an older gentleman said something. Now I look at it, it wasn't mean. I've had people say a lot meaner things to me when I have children out in public, but he said, it must be difficult, or it must be hard having such a difficult child. And I said, she is not a difficult child. She is and it probably didn't say amazing, but I defended my my toddler. I said, she's a really good little girl, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, and I pushed my cart away. I was just so mad that he would criticize my daughter. So I just thought, how dare you tell me that she's difficult? Which, if I responded, yeah, this is a little hard to keep her in a cart, but she's a good girl. I could have reacted that way now that I think about it, 30 plus years later. But I continued through the store, went through the checkout, went out to the car and burst into tears because I couldn't regulate my emotions in that situation. And that's okay to burst into tears. It's totally good. But I like this idea that it's like a blaring alarm telling you something that that's not working for you very well, or how you need to heal from it, or that you do need to cry, or that you do need to process your emotions, because a lot of people push their emotions down. They might not be as blaring for them to deal with, and they get pushed down, pushed down, pushed down, and it builds up for sure. And one person said it's a blessing, just a heavy one. Once you learn to work with it instead of fighting it, you'll expand yourself to the next level of being. That's really interesting. I don't know what that feels like, but maybe that'll speak to one of you. But learn to work with it instead of fighting it. And that was something else I saw when reading about this, is that if you really try to just fight it, and not let your emotions out, it'll just continue to build up, and it'll be more difficult for you. Yeah. One person said, my RSD, and these are all women, my RSD has been crucial in my ability to build and reinforce boundaries like I've never been able to prior to my diagnosis. So once she found out I have ADHD and, oh, this is RSD, she was able to put up boundaries and reinforce them, because there are some people in life that might trigger a response of rejection in you, even if you're not actually being rejected, or if they are rejecting you, it can be harder to be around them. And so if you put up some boundaries, if I can only be around you in this kind of situation, or not at all, they're causing a lot of stress in your life, you can make changes and reinforce those changes. And another woman, last one here, said, I fully believe I'm a kinder, more intentional, and more grateful person as a direct result of RSD making me highly sensitive. And that's like the woman who said she was empathetic. I kind of feel that way too. I know I said I don't think I have RSD, but I identify with so many of these comments, and it might just be that I have it to some degree. But it's really interesting when I have conversations with other people in my family or friends, and they tell me about a situation that happened with somebody else. And I have a lot more empathy for that person than they do. Like a friend who's a school teacher, and, oh, this child, she just doesn't know how to, well, sit in her chair or be still. Obviously, I'm going to have some empathy to that because I've been that person. But in other situations too, I really look at the other person, and even watching the Super Bowl or any game, I'll have the team that I want to win, but I always look at the other players and the other coach and just feel so bad. And with the Chiefs, I actually didn't feel so bad. I liked the Chiefs before, but I was getting to the point where, and I liked the Eagles before too. And I know people had their opinions about both teams, but I just thought, Chiefs, give them a turn, give them a turn. And actually my sensitivity was more like, it's good for you to experience different kinds of emotions. So that was my caring mode, like as a mom. It's good for you to learn to lose sometimes too. And my youngest son, who also has ADHD, he taught me that once. We were at a soccer game, and his team lost, and they usually won. But he said, I'm not actually that sad that we lost, because I heard a kid on the other team say, this is the first time we won this year, and it made me so happy. And I thought, I do the same thing when I'm even at my own children's games, as I look at the other kids and I want them to be happy too. So, yeah. So it might make you more understanding of other people. It might make you more in tune with their struggles, because you have that emotional intelligence. You have a fine tune. Like if you think of a volume control bar, and if it has like the click, 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 and you can control it all the way from 1 up to 100, you can see all those aspects in that whole range. And somebody else might just see 1 to 5, and, oh, they're angry. And they don't really see all the things that could lead to that angry, or, oh, they're really sad. Why are they crying so much? And there can be reasons, and it's fine to cry if we need to. Some advice that people had for each other that helped. These are women with ADHD ADHD and RSD, who said you need to let your RSD guide you. The more you fight it, it will spiral. And you'll be just worse off. You need to just let it go and ride it through. Another person said, realizing that not everyone has to like me is important. I don't like everyone else, do I? I'm laughing because that's true. We don't love everyone. I do love most people, probably more than most people do. But yeah, there have been some people in my life that I don't feel have led me to feel that I want to like them. So, um, and some have said that medication has helped. I don't know what kind of medication. I did read that stimulants can cause RSD. It doesn't mean it always does. But if you're on stimulants and you feel like your RSD has increased, maybe talk to your doctor about that. But for my daughter, she said anxiety medication did help. So some say that medications made it better, that they still struggle with it. One person said the only thing that has really helped me is to realize that not everyone has to like me. And it's not easy to not have everyone like you or get you or appreciate you. And it's interesting because this might be something that we think, oh, girls deal with this in high school because there's, that whole little world there of who's popular and who's not and who's liked and who isn't. And some people aren't in the part of that, the group of that feel confident with themselves. And it can be really hard, but it can continue through life in different situations, different scenarios. When I became a yoga teacher, I always felt like people liked me, I guess. I mean, I never did anything that made somebody angry with me, but I would teach classes and some people would come and they'd never come again. So then you can think, oh, they don't like my class. Or some people can leave class early and you might think, oh, they really didn't like my class. But it could be that you're just not their style of yoga, or you're just not their person they connect with, or they wanted a more spiritual guide and I wasn't that, or whatever. They were visiting from out of town and they would never come again. Or they hurt their leg during class or whatever hurt and they had to leave, or they had an appointment. They just didn't get a chance to tell me. There's a lot of things that could happen, but I had to really make peace with some people are going to come to my class and think, I don't like your music. I don't like that you talk as much as you do, or I wish you talked more. I had one woman who came to my class and said afterwards, and she was a visitor with her friend, and her friend had been to my class before and invited her to come, which would make me think she would have a similar expectation. But she came, and afterwards, her friend that had been to my class before waved me over and said, my friend wants to talk to you. She's here for the first time, which often means, hello, I wanted to meet you. And she said, I could have stayed home and done that on my own, and it would have been the same. I drove an hour to get here, and kind of like that was a waste of time. I was surprised because I wasn't expecting criticism. It's not like I haven't gotten criticism before, but I just thought, oh, wow, so what made it what did you not like about it? She wanted me to do adjustments and push on her back and stuff like that. And I didn't do it for that class. It was a yin yoga class where you do deep stretches, and I didn't feel it was appropriate there. And I also don't hear very well. So you're always supposed to ask permission, and then you ask permission, and then the person says something. I never know what they're saying. So I just got to where I only did that if people really wanted me to. And that's how I taught my classes. And now I don't do it at all since COVID. It's a lot simpler. But I know people enjoy that. I mean, that's what they're looking for. But I was at a point, thankfully, at that point in my teaching, where I didn't think, oh, well, then I'm going to change and do that every time because I have to be what every person wants me to be. I have to play the kind of music they're asking me to play. I have to do this. I have to do that. And at the beginning, I might have thought that. And then later I got the advice, walk in like you own the place, like especially if you're subbing, because people look at you like, this isn't what we wanted today. Walk in like you own the place and be okay if they don't like it, or even if they leave. So anyway, recognizing that not everyone has to like you might be helpful no matter what in life. And then there are some apps that help you process your feelings, feel more mindful, just kind of learn how to deal with the emotions that come up. One woman said, we're so good at beating ourselves up. So true. We are our worst critics, right? But some people can be mean too. And she said, please try to be kind to yourself and give yourself grace. Giving yourself grace, accepting what is, and being okay with it is something that we have to apply to a lot of parts of ADHD because we forget things, we make mistakes, all kinds of things. I don't know. It's crazy, but I'm getting good at that, giving myself grace. One of the things that helped me long ago, and this was actually a rejection, go into an office. This is when I had a job in college. Go into an office, and my boss told me things I was doing wrong. And maybe she was like the softball coach, and that's what she needed to do. But I think I worked at a flower shop in college, a flower and craft store. And most of the time I made flower arrangements in the back because I'd worked at a flower shop in high school and a few little flower boxes they used to have in parking lots at grocery stores. So I knew how to make flower arrangements and stuff. But I can't remember what she was telling me. Like if I talked too much when I was at the front counter, I can't remember. She didn't think I was working well enough. I can't remember actually. Something like that. Surprise, surprise. And I remember being in her office. There were no windows and the door was shut. And I was sitting in there with her at a big desk. And it's kind of a powerful presence when someone's sitting behind a desk and you're sitting in this little chair and someone's telling you what you're doing wrong. And in the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, the author talks about how it's important when you give criticism to sandwich it. I don't know if he uses that phrase or not. It's been a long time since I've read it, but to sandwich the criticism in between two words of praise or thoughts of praise or compliments or something. You're doing a really great job. I love how you make the flowers, but I need to talk to you about how you're doing and how you could be more productive when you're up at the counter. And at the end, again, I really think you're doing great with the flowers, but we just need to work on, that kind of thing. And that helps somebody feel a lot better about themselves. But anyway, so she didn't do that. And the thing is we became really, really close. She was like a mother away from home. And I worked there for, I think, 3 years. Super, super love her. That was the only talk like that, actually. But it was the first one that I had in my life. I grew up in a town with all my grandmas and grandpas and lots of aunts and uncles and just knew everybody in this small little town. And for the most part, people weren't mean to me. And, just a few rude people at school or something. But anyway, so I was sitting there and I was just feeling that weight. No window in the room, a desk, and all these words coming toward me. And I could not help but feel really nervous inside and just feel horrible, horrible. Like that cave that I felt like that room was at the moment was just becoming darker and darker and darker, and I was getting closed in. And the idea came to start thinking of all the people who love me. And so I started telling myself, I have people in my life who love me, and I started thinking about who they are. Other people love me, and I started thinking of who they are. And that got me through that experience. So I wasn't crumbling inside. And if you do have people in your life who love you, I hope you do. I hope everybody does. You may end up being around somebody who you're not feeling that love from, or you're actually feeling rejection from. Start filling your mind with the people who love you and think of who they are and tell yourself, I'm worthy of love. I have a lot of people who love me. This person just doesn't get me. And that's okay. And it might be hard if the people who get you are your family and you go to school or you go into a work environment and everyone thinks they're better than you, and you think, oh, so, have you ever had a child who said to you, like, it's usually my daughters, I think, who said it to me, like, Mom, like, I know you think I'm pretty, or I know you think this is good about me. It didn't give them as teenagers as much. I'm sure it gave them a sense of value. But when I said, oh, you're so beautiful, they didn't believe it as much as if someone at school told them they were beautiful. Or if I said, you're super smart, even though you didn't get an A on this test, you're super smart, you're bright. They didn't believe it as much if it came from the mom because they said the mom has to say that. It has to say that. But as you grow older, you start to appreciate, even if they see you through eyes that might not be as realistic. My parents think that my brothers and I are the most perfect people that live on the earth. And I just appreciate that they think that because I don't think it's true. And I know not everyone has parents who give them the love that they need or deserve. But think of anyone in your life who does love you and think of who they are and just feel that gratitude. That's going to bring another wave of emotions, but they'll be better emotions, even if they do bring you to tears. But yeah, some affirmations that are positive self-talk. Any affirmation like, I am not flawed. I am fantastic. I am not flawed. My brain is not flawed. My brain is me. That's who I have. That's just like my hand. My hand works the way it works. And I need to be grateful for that. My brain works. This is me. And it's okay. I'm okay just how I am. And of course, we want to develop ourselves any way we can, but we're still okay. We're still okay. We're doing the best we can. So any positive self-talk that you can give yourself or have a friend, call up a friend afterwards that loves you and will back you up and boost you up. Talk to that person or pray. If you are someone who prays, pray for that feeling of love and comfort. There are also mindfulness practices that you could do that just allow you to feel calmer. And they can help you regulate your emotions because with ADHD, you can have emotional dysregulation. That's what this RSD is it's a hyped up, a very big version of emotional dysregulation. And I used to hear people say, just take a breath, breathe slowly. And I just think, oh, that's rude. You're just telling people to calm down. You're just telling them that, like I'm watching TV or something and I'm seeing this in a show. This is before I was a yoga teacher. And, take a deep breath or, that kind of thing. And I thought, oh, you're just, being condescending and telling them they're being over emotional or something. But I learned that deep breathing, different meditation methods that include this slower breath or even physical activity that regulates the breath too. When you're running, you get into a breathing pattern and it goes along with what your feet are doing. If you're on a spin bike and you're going choo, 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 choo to the music, there's something that's calming the nervous system with that. That's a breath pattern too. So even though a lot of people think yoga or meditative breath that only happens in a yoga studio or in a yoga class or doing a yoga video or something like that, it's not true. You can do ujjayi breathing or different breathing techniques while you're on a hike, while you're walking, while you're standing up, while you're laying down in your bed. You can do it sitting in your car. I do it at stoplights a lot because sometimes you need to let out an emotion. If you have a problem with sitting still and not moving, it's really helpful. So I'm just going to give you a really quick tutorial on ujjayi breath. And if you want me to make a bigger, longer one, I could make one that's just, like a 10-minute ujjayi breath podcast episode. But just real briefly, ujjayi, it has 2 J's. And it's a breathing technique that goes back to the 15th century, although some people take it back to Patanjali, which is another story. You don't need to know all that. But it's an ancient breathing technique that comes from India. And it's known for having a meditative quality, calming the body, and stabilizing the mind. Pretty cool, huh? Sometimes people call it ocean breathing or ocean breath, mostly because it just sounds like ocean waves. It's got kind of a texture to it when you breathe. I don't know how to describe that. I hope that didn't come off really weird on the microphone. And knowing that it has texture to it is helpful, because I did yoga videos thinking I was doing ujjayi breathing for a couple years, and then actually did a video with Max Strom on breathing to heal, and understood it the first time he taught it. And I've actually been to a few workshops with Max Strom since then, and he's really amazing. So I'm going to do my best to explain it to you, not how I always hear it explained, but how it worked for me. Because once I understood it, that's when I started doing it at stoplights. I'm like, oh my goodness, this feels good. I could just do 3 or 4 breaths and feel a little better. And if you're in a situation or are experiencing RSD or any of these symptoms where the emotions are coming in so strong, and whether it's perceived, it's real, whatever, doesn't really matter. This is happening in your body. It's causing a lot of problems for you. Doing this breathing can help calm you down to a more manageable state. And just one of the benefits too, I found, I know this sounds like I'm changing the subject, but I'm not. but there's the physical response that happens in your body from doing this breathing, but also what happens in the mind, which is also physical. It's all related. But what's happening is because you've stopped thinking the thoughts that you have, because your brain is focusing on the breathing, that also helps you, because those thoughts can't run amok in your brain. Does that make sense? So it's helping your nervous system because you're breathing slower, but because your mind, which is really active when you're feeling all these feelings, all these emotions, your mind is thinking, I feel so bad about myself. Because your mind has to focus on the breathing, that helps quiet your mind. That helps stabilize the mind in that way. And because the breathing connects to the nervous system, which also connects to the brain. So yeah, it's pretty amazing. So what you need to do with ujjayi breath, the idea is that you're going to breathe in and out of your nose, but you're going to direct the breathing from the base of your throat. And if you feel the base of your throat, for me, it's just right there where the clavicles, is that what the clavicles, where they come together in the middle? So right there, that's where I feel it. I don't know if that's technically the base of the throat, but that's what it feels like for me. And then actually, let's do it first with your mouth open, because I can describe to you what, when the throat's doing the right thing, I can describe to you how it sounds, because it sounds more recognizable with your mouth open, and then we can do it with the mouth closed. But if you leave your mouth open, but just relaxed, so you're not going to like purse your lips to exhale, or widen big like you're opening your mouth wide at the dentist. You're just going to open the mouth just gently. It's just relaxed. And then as you inhale, feel the throat widen, and you're going to make kind of an eh sound, like a short E, a soft E. Is that what it's called, a short E? So on your inhale, do that. And as you widen at the base of your throat, your chest, your belly, and your back, your whole upper body will expand like a balloon. So that's your inhale, and then your exhale will also do it through the mouth right now. It's like you're saying ha. Or if you put your hand in front of your mouth and you were to go, you're going to feel the heat of your breath. It's kind of like you fog up a mirror or something to wipe it off. I don't know if people do that anymore with a cloth or something. So you do the eh on the inhale and the ha on the exhale. I want to do the breathing along with you so you can hear what it sounds like, but the microphone silences me every time I do it. So I'm just going to have to direct you without making the sound myself. But what you'll do is just have your mouth relaxed, and you won't widen your mouth as you inhale. You won't bring your lips any closer together. Mouth is just going to be relaxed. This is just so you can hear that eh and that ha on the exhale. So we'll just do a few here. You can even, if you're not driving a car or something, you can even start with your hands together. And as you inhale, open your arms out wider. So it kind of feels like the lungs are expanding. They're mimicking the lungs. And as you exhale, bring the hands back together. And so we're, again, feeling the base of the throat expand as you inhale. Do that eh, and there ha. And it's not sounding right for me, but just so you know when to do it. And so a lot of yoga teachers will say inhale, exhale, but you can try it again with your mouth closed. I just do the mouth open so you can hear that. But if you get used to how it feels to have the throat expand, that widening, and you can do it while I'm talking, feel the throat expand, feel the chest, the belly, the back expand. So the whole upper body's expanding like a balloon as you breathe in. And then as you exhale, I even like to just, instead of bring my hands back together, I like to take my hands to my throat and just get that sense of pushing my hands away. That's what it feels like for me when I'm doing that breath. I'm pushing that air out from the base of the throat. So as you inhale, you get that that expansion as you breathe in. Exhale, pushing that air out. Inhale again, expansive as you breathe in. And as you exhale, push that air away, thorough as you breathe out. And even a little slower if you like. Inhale. And then exhale, push that air away. Inhale again. Do a few more. Exhale that ha breath. Inhale one more. And exhale, push that air out. And you can continue doing it if you want while I talk. But that is Ujjayi breathing. And it's helpful for adults. It's helpful for children. It's helpful to calm the body and calm the mind. And just take your attention off of what's actually happening around you or in your brain and just bring all the attention to your body slowing down and being able to manage your body and your surroundings. It's a great way to do that anywhere that you are. At a stoplight, in bed at night, you can't go to sleep, although I have a better breathing technique for nighttime. I think I talked about that in the episode about sleep. But you can doing this lying down. You know, if you are at a point where I just need to go find a place to lie down in the middle of the day, this might not help you go to sleep, but this does have a meditative quality. And the Ujjayi translation, that word is breath with a vibration. So you're getting that vibration in the lungs, and that's why it's a more textured sounding breath. But it also sounds like the ocean because the ocean has that roughness as the waves go out, the waves go in. And when I'm lying down and doing this in a yoga class, I think of the ocean as the wave, kind of comes way up and you're feeling that expansion there, that power there coming with the breath coming in. And then as you exhale, when you see the water crash on the sand and it goes out, 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 I think of that as the exhale. So that's a nice thing to think of too. Some people call it visualization. I just think of it as pretending like I'm at the beach again. But any mindfulness practices that work for you, do them. Do them anywhere you are. No one will even know. They might hear the breathing, but when your mouth's closed, other people don't hear it as much. Some people think, oh, it's an audible breath. Like it needs to be loud enough so that you can hear it. So in that sense, it's audible. It doesn't need to be loud enough that everyone else can hear it. And some people don't know that when they go to a yoga class and they are breathing so loud that everyone in the room can hear. It's like, no, it doesn't need to be that loud. But because I have that sensitivity, I don't tell them. I just kind of think maybe they'll figure it out. But there are forms of therapy that can be helpful too in understanding your thought patterns and what's going on with your emotions, or if you're judging yourself, what thoughts you might be giving yourself. Cognitive behavioral therapy, I don't have any experience with that, but that's one that's recommended as a coping strategy for RSD or just emotional dysregulation. But any kind of support that you can get, whether it's from a therapist or a friend or through prayer or family or just self-affirmations, reminding yourself things that you already know or that you can easily believe, like your heart and mind wants no, well, let's start like this. You know how amazing you are, but it's really easy to tell yourself that you're not, especially if you compare or if you make mistakes or are different. And so if you really do some things like sit and breathe, you start to enjoy just who you are. You start to enjoy your own body. Your body isn't about what it looks like on the outside, how it looks in a certain outfit, or how tall you are, anything like that. Your body is this vehicle to help you experience life. And it's wonderful to just enjoy being in your body. And so that's one of the reasons I loved yoga is I think I do tend to to dig deeper about what's going on and evaluate. And it just gives you an opportunity to do that when you can kind of what I used to call space out and just think, wow, I'm the only person who gets to be in my body. And I can just lie down, put my legs up, my feet up, or just be wherever I am and just enjoy that because I'm the only one who gets to experience this. Why not enjoy it? Why not appreciate who I am? Why not tell myself that I'm amazing? I could be my biggest cheerleader. I really could. I probably am not, but I'm just realizing that that just came out of my mouth for a new thought. Actually, I could be my biggest cheerleader, but I have thought before that I'm the only person who's ever walked the earth and ever will that knows what it's like to be me. And it's just something to really, space out about it and trip out about because you can walk around, you can be in a big crowd of people going to a football game or a concert or just wherever you are with a lot of people and look around. And we have no idea what it's like to be any of those people, what it's like in their mind, in their body, what it feels like to be them. And we won't know. I mean, people can describe things, but we truly know ourselves really, really well. And often we aren't honest with people or we don't want to tell everybody everything, but we may not even be able to put it in words. So sometimes just experiencing that is a good thing to do. Yeah, it's something I feel strongly about, huh? It's funny because when I made the episode yesterday, I was reading, and I don't do as well when I read things, but I was reading the description of me on the podcast that I was on, Connected for Real, and it said mindset expert or my mindset mentor, wellness expert. I was, trying to think of things because you need to have something to describe what you are qualified in and what you dig deep and what you've learned and had lots of trainings in and things. And I thought I probably haven't revealed that much on the podcast of being a mentor for positive mindset or that internal wellness, that mental wellness. And so anytime I can offer that to you, I hope that is in a way that you can understand it and it can help you in your life. And I'm happy to do more with the breathing. I should probably make a breathing tutorial and put it on my website because I do have a yoga page that just directs you to where I have all my yoga videos that I've been teaching for a couple of years to people who do yoga online with me. And I thought I'd have that there for them, but also anybody who has ADHD that might want to do yoga with me. But it's not the key thing that I'm offering for women with ADHD. My podcast means more to me in that way. But I do have a few things on there that I thought if anyone doesn't have a lot of time for yoga or they're new to yoga, like lie down and let go. I think it's 10 minutes long, 12 minutes. I have a few short ones on there, but I should make a few for breathing because I feel like a lot of tutorials are really good, but like I said, it took me a long time to find one that made sense to my brain to work. And a lot of people are really militant about, you have to sit down and you can't lean against a wall. And a lot of those rules I break because I'm more comfortable. I can sit longer if I do it in a way that works for me. And it was interesting because when I looked up the history of Ujjayi breathing, Ujjayi breath is thought of something, that you do throughout your yoga class, but not necessarily lying down or in a meditative state. And I learned that some of the greatest yoga leaders did it in all those ways. So that was nice to know. Not that I'm always trying to follow them, but it just did give me a little validation. So anyway, another day, another tangent, huh? This one's almost an hour long. But I think that'll be it for today. Thank you for listening today, especially if you made it this far, even if you have to do it in chunks. Sometimes I do that with the podcast, listen for a while and stop, or listen while I'm going to sleep and then think, what's the last thing I remember them saying? And then I pick up there the next day or as I'm going to sleep again. I like listening to podcasts as I go to sleep because it keeps my mind busy, keeps it off of other things. Set the timer and I'm good. But I don't do it every night, but it is one of my little tools. But thanks for being here. Feel free to find me on my website, renee-allen.com. If you want to say hello, you can go to the About page, write to me, or sign up for one of my freebies. I did revamp my focus journal, and I spent a lot of time on it. On, what is it? I want to say Sleepless in Seattle and While You're Sleeping, but it's neither of that. On Sleeping Beauty, where Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather are the little fairies, and there's one that's blue and one that's pink, and they keep turning Sleeping Beauty's dress either pink, blue, pink, blue. I couldn't decide because I had my focus journal before when I was making, I had it blue because I used to have my website blue. And I thought I should make it pink to match my website. But then I liked the blue one too. And so I'm offering both options. And so you could choose if you want pink or blue. But feel free to go there and look for that. I don't even know if I have a link to that on there, actually. I don't know where I do. Actually, I need to revamp my website for sure. Go there and see if I've gotten it done. I've gotten so much work done, but it never shows up. I swear it never shows up because it takes so many steps. But I hope you're having a great week. I hope you're having a wonderful time in good health and all that. Thanks for being here. Bye.
Open windows, broken shadows. Frozen dreams are left for tomorrow. Without a cause. No time for a pause. The silence of sound has yet been found, but not by me.